Hey, Whovians, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and continuing on, reviewing Season 2 of Doctor Who. Now we come to Part 2, yes, my Part 2 review of Season 2 of Doctor Who, Episodes 4, 5, and 6. Yes. I gotta say, yeah, these next 3 episodes in Season 2, they were pretty interesting. Yeah, especially because knowing Doctor Who, yeah, good majority of episodes that can have really intenseful stuff. And, you know, of course, when it comes to the twists and the very intenseful situations that the Doctor and whatever companion that's with him, that they get themselves into, oh yeah, because definitely, yeah, the situations that happen in these next 3 episodes of this season of Doctor Who, pretty interesting and intense, yeah. But overall, with what the next 3 episodes of Season 2 of Doctor Who had to offer, yeah, I mean, they were really good, I think, in my opinion. And maybe the same goes for some of you. Any of you who have been enjoying Doctor Who and being on, you know, Disney Plus and with what this season has had to offer. Yeah. Yeah, because the fact that, you know, one of these episodes that is another one that we don't get that much of the Doctor. It centers on another character being one of his companions, and the other 2, yeah, the situations that the Doctor and his new companion Belinda, they find themselves into, and, you know, of course, the fact that the Doctor is trying to get Belinda back to Earth, but the situations they get themselves into, up to, say, episodes 5 and 6, yeah, really interesting, and whom they come up face-to-face with, you know? It's crazy, but cool at the same time. Just, man, I tell ya. But, yeah, overall, episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Season 2 of Doctor Who, they were some pretty good ones. Yeah. Okay, so, now let's dive into the episodes themselves. Of course, starting with Episode 4, which being Lucky Day, and this being another episode of Doctor Who that's top-rated, and looking at it on the IMDb page. Okay, so, description / the story. Ruby Sunday faces life back on Earth without the Doctor. But when a dangerous new threat emerges, can Ruby and Unit save her new boyfriend, Conrad, from the terrifying Shriek? Yeah, this new monster / alien species that we see called the Shriek, and yeah. But what more happens in this episode? Oh boy, just, yeah. Alright, so, getting into Episode 4, Lucky Day itself. Well, as I read in the description / the story, we get the return of the Doctor's previous companion, Ruby Sunday, once again being played by Millie Gibson. Yep, because we once again get an episode of Doctor Who that centers on Ruby and not that much on the Doctor. And, yeah, isn't me, or like some episodes that don't have the Doctor in them that much, where we don't get that much of the Doctor, they usually turn out to be some pretty good episodes. Well, I mean, take for best example, Blank. Yeah, definitely that one. But yeah, because, well, this episode's starting off where apparently the Doctor and Belinda, and the Doctor's still trying to charge up his very own GPS, you know, in order to get Belinda back home officially. Well, they find themselves in the year 2007. It's New Year's Day, and, they come face-to-face at one point with this young boy by the name of Conrad. Yeah, and young Conrad being played by, and surely because, yeah, he'd be credited, of course. Yeah, okay, yeah. Young Conrad being played by Benjamin Chivers, if I'm saying that right, yeah. Comes face-to-face with Belinda and the Doctor, and asking young Conrad what year this is, and so on, and Conrad just, you know, surprised by the sight of what he has just seen. The Doctor, Belinda, and the blue box. And even when the doctor found, like, say, a quarter on the floor, and, well, giving it to Conrad, because this being his lucky day. Roll credits. And young Conrad just snatching it and, like, just leaving, and trying to tell his mother on what he had just seen, but his mother just thinking that he's telling lies and slapping him, like, jeez. Well, we see that she's been drinking, so, yeah, jeez Louise, poor Conrad. Then, years later, we would see Conrad older, and Conrad, by the last name Clark, older Conrad being played by Jonah Hewer-King, if I said the middle name right. Again, you know me sometimes. Well, because he started this podcast and talking about what he experienced back in 2007. And just so happens that he has a guest on his podcast show whom did encounter and interact with the Doctor in the blue box, which being the TARDIS. And that, of course, being Ruby Sunday, because Conrad managed to track and locate and identify Ruby Sunday, because apparently 1 year before he would interview Ruby on his podcast show, he did at one point have another encounter with the blue box, and, going inside this building where, he would see something mysterious and scary in there, which being, well, the main alien/monster we see in this Doctor Who episode. And, well, it just so happens that the Doctor and Ruby happen to be there, and what they're coming face to face with. And apparently, the time and setting of where the Doctor and Ruby are at, and where Conrad sees the Doctor and Ruby, well, this actually takes place not long after, say, when, and as Ruby mentioned to the Doctor, of when they encountered the Beatles. That's where's, And, the monsters, / alien species being referred to as the Sheiks, and, the Shrieks. There's an R in the name of the alien species. And this, goo that, Conrad manages to get a whip of, and it's on, his neck and such, which comes from the Shrieks. And what we learn about the Shrieks, and best described by Ruby, well, because, inflicting, nightmares and so on the victims, and, with getting some goo, a whip of goo from the Shrieks, that marks the territory, and the Shrieks knowing which victims to go after and such, and best I can put at it, but Conrad having seen the Doctor, and along with the Dr. Ruby, managing to take a picture of the blue box, but also Ruby, and thus, that's when Conrad would manage to, find and locate and get in contact with Ruby, and thus, her coming on his talk show, and, and say what you will, I mean, surprisingly, it didn't occur to me where, maybe Conrad was being kind of a creep or something, but hey, after what he encountered in 2007, and when he would see the Doctor again, and this time Ruby managed to, know who Ruby is, and to, hear from someone else who knows the Doctor. You see what I mean? It's understandable, but, still. But things seem to go pretty well, and with what Ruby tells Conrad on his talk show. Well, not to mention, others are hearing this, on his podcast show, with headphones and so on, including one guy whom is a part of UNIT, hearing about this. Conrad, at one point after the podcast show is done, Conrad offers to take Ruby on a date, technically, have dinner and such, and, for Ruby, she seems okay and comfortable with being around Conrad and such, with what she can sense about him so far, but just overall, Ruby and Conrad, they seem to hit it off pretty well when they have, like, say, dinner, and as I brought up earlier, where, most notably from Ruby, she tells more about the Shrieks to Conrad and so on. And yeah, because the fact that he got a whip of the goo, well, Ruby giving Conrad a serum, so that way, he will be okay, and the Shrieks will not come after him and such, just, yeah. And, not long after that, and the more they see each other, yeah, things start to hit off pretty well for them, and later but surely, they would become boyfriend and girlfriend, yeah. Even with the appearance of, because at one point, because we do get an appearance of Ruby's family, because, yeah, Carla Sunday and Cherry Sunday, and also her actual mother, Louise, because they make an appearance, and they're very proud of Ruby with what's going on with her and this new boy that she's seeing, and thus becoming her boyfriend and so on. Yeah, but just overall, things seem to be looking pretty good for Ruby, and the fact that she's found someone in her life and such, just, yeah, it's good to see. But anyway, so, oh yeah, and because, Conrad's mother, Moira, being played by Kirstie Hulles, if I'm saying that right, yeah, because, we only see Conrad's mother at the start of the episode in 2007, that's it. And apparently, according to Conrad, he told Ruby that, he sadly lost his mother to liver cancer, yeah. Especially because, with her drinking and such. But anyways, so yeah, the more time that Ruby and Conrad, they spend some time, and they go to this pub where, yeah, meeting with Conrad's, friends, and yeah, and some of the other cast members of this episode, because, well, obviously, yeah, Conrad's friends from, like, say, Elsa being played by Madison Stock, Sparky played by Patty Stafford, and Jack played by Blake Patrick Anderson, and yeah, a few others, and those who are at the bar, because Michelle being played by Aoife Gaston, Alfie played by Paul Jericho, Derek played by Michael Woodford, yeah. Just overall, good to see that everything's going pretty well between Conrad and Ruby. But that is until Ruby noticed this at one point at a bus stop, then at the pub where there's some flickering. Yeah, like flickering on the bus stop sign, the digital words, and then at the pub, the lights and such, they're flickering. Well, that's when, like, Ruby is suspecting, and maybe she's going paranoid, but not really. Little does she fully know, because, yeah, any trouble that's lurking by, close to them, and that being the Shrieks, and even when Ruby calls up Unit, and, yeah, Kate Lepridge Stewart, whom, of course, once again returns, and Kate once again being played by Gemma Redgrave, yeah. Kate, telling Ruby that they can be there in, like, say, 30 minutes and such with reinforcements with what's going on, but, Ruby telling them that that's not necessary, and maybe it's nothing, yeah. And also, more members of the unit that appear in this, Colonel Christopher Ibrahim, yeah, once again being played by Alexander Deverand, and it seemed like a little hint of, I guess, a romance between the Colonel and Kate? I guess. I don't know, because he gave her some coffee, so, and I can see, like, the look on their faces, I guess, but, oh well, if that's the case, hey, not a problem with me, and maybe the same goes for you. But anyways, yeah, and the other members of the unit, because, yeah, also, Shirley Benham is back, the one in the wheelchair, once again, Ruth Madeley, and, also, because the others, like, Audrey, Tina Gray, Tritney Wells, Lachelle, Carl, and, yeah, a bunch of, okay, yeah, and, then there's a few other cast members, like, that appear as themselves, but until I get there, just, yeah. But overall, Ruby doesn't really suspect anything, but that is until and after getting off the phone with Kate that, yeah, something does end up happening, and at one point, one of Conrad's friends, Sparky, is not back in the pub, and yeah, something's up. And that's when, yeah, everybody starts to see, you know, what's out there, you know, like being referred to as like the devil, but it's, you know, it's a shriek. And, well, Ruby taking it upon herself to try to, you know, confront the shriek and so on. Conrad wants to help, and, well, Ruby telling Conrad that he has to stay in the pub because it's after him. And when Ruby also finds out that Conrad did not take the serum because Conrad thought he can be brave and such like the doctor. But, yeah, he tried, but just sadly didn't work out. But yeah. Oh yeah, because the other cast, like Audrey, because I believe she was like the one at the pub, but yeah, anyway. So, yes. Okay, I think, yeah, I'm right, because, like, like, this lady that comes into the pub and saying that, you know, like, there's a devil out there, and she had a dog with her, just, yeah. But, yeah, just overall, Ruby going out to confront the shriek, but then, yeah, Conrad then coming out because, you know, he wants to do this as well, and, you know, and obviously because he doesn't want Ruby to be left alone out there dealing with the shriek, but, yeah. Eventually, well, Ruby did end up calling up, unit to help out and such, and yeah, the unit does show up, and also Conrad's friends coming out to also help out, and well, there are two shrieks that have merged, and well, Ruby then notices something off about the shrieks, and this is where we get our twist. They aren't actually shrieks, they are two guys who are dressed up as shrieks. What's this about? Well, it turns out Conrad is not whom we thought he was, and whom Ruby thought he was. Let's just say that, yeah, when we were starting to like Conrad and the relationship between him and Ruby, Conrad ends up being an asshole, because he and his friends are a part of this group called the Think Tank. They are out to expose the unit, saying that the unit are fakers and that they're doing this like in the style of Scooby-Doo, like that there's no Cybermen, there's no Daleks, any of these aliens. But little do they know for themselves that it is real, even when the unit tries to explain this, but yeah, and this starts to cause an outcry where everybody starts to bash and hate towards the unit and so on, and Ruby is not safe, and even when she has to be transported and such, just, yeah, all the protesters and so on, golly, what's happened? And man, this was a very surprising twist, yeah, and don't you think that this was a good one? Yeah, because man. And we do find out later that apparently Conrad, he used to be a part of the unit. And what he's doing now, because just wanting to get the attention and love and such, and you know, and even after all those years when he tried to convince his mother, but she never did up to her death, just, yeah, it's unfortunate for him, but man. However, actually no, because, I actually almost forgot, because it turns out that, and thanks to Shirley, she finds out and tells/confirms to Ruby that, no, Conrad's mother is alive and well. So Conrad lied about his mother having died, so yeah, man, because, you know, poor Ruby, she found a really good guy whom turned out to be not who she thought he was. It's a shame. And yeah, by the way, because some news reporters whom we get cameos of, like Rita Chakrabarty, if I'm getting her last name right, yeah, appearing as herself. Same goes for Joel Domet and Alex Jones, yeah, because they appear as themselves, reporting this, you know, with what's going on, people hating and bashing on the unit. And also the other cast members, the influencers. Number 2 being Calispo Cragg, James Craven, and Selorm Adoniu. If I'm getting any of their names right, again, you know me sometimes. And by the way, because another member of the unit whom we see again, the Vlinks, if I'm saying that right, yeah. Yep, because the Vlinks, once again, being played by Adian Cook, he's the body performance, and Nick Bricks being the voice. of him. Yeah, so we get a little bit of him in this episode, and yeah, because with what's going on with poor Ruby and the unit and where they're at right now, everything's at stake for them, just, yeah. But up to when, like, say, yeah, someone from the unit actually flat out betrays the unit and has secretly helped Conrad, and that being Jordan Lang, and Jordan Lang being played by Kareem Alexander. Yeah. And by the way, one of the Shrieks, I presume the Shriek, being played by Gethin Alderman. Yeah, if I've said that right. Yeah, so Jordan Lang helped out Conrad get inside of the unit building, and up to when, like, yeah, Conrad flat out killed Jordan because, well, Conrad took one of the unit soldiers' guns, and Jordan didn't, like, you know, telling Conrad that wouldn't be necessary to use a weapon and such. And when Jordan was against Conrad, you know, by using a weapon, that, yeah, unfortunately, Jordan ended up getting shot. But thankfully, he actually surprisingly managed to survive that. Yeah. But yeah, so Conrad, by this point, yeah, everything's at stake and intense, and, well, Conrad is making his way up to the building. And that's when Kate, she does something crazy where, yeah, we do see that, we did at one point see that the unit was keeping a Shriek hostage, but then Kate taking it upon herself to have the Shriek be unleashed, so thus, you know, with what's going to happen and to prove to the world that, yes, everything that the unit does is legit. Yeah, because, you know, aliens and such, and the unit taking care and handling the aliens, yeah. But from Ruby and some of the other members of the unit who are present in the main room, they know, and they know at a certain point that, yeah, Kate is going a bit mad with what she's doing. And eventually when Conrad makes his way, like, yeah, the dialogue between Conrad and the others, and Conrad just trying to take down the unit no matter what, and man, the insults that he says to them, you know, he insults Ruby, and also to Kate, by mentioning her father. How dare he dirty Kate's father's name? Jeez, like, and yeah, I can understand Kate's upsetment, but still, you know, with what she was doing, and the fact that the doctor is not present, and Kate is glad the doctor is not present because what she's about to do, and yeah, by unleashing the Shriek, and yeah, and the Shriek, you know, lurking around, and Conrad trying to shoot down the Shriek, but he runs out of bullets, and yeah, he's outmatched by the Shriek, and when the Shriek comes up to Conrad, and yeah, Kate trying to basically get Conrad to speak the truth, because he's the one that's been lying, and eventually he does give in, and, well, good on Ruby, because she tases, the Shriek, knocking out the Shriek, and, jeez, Conrad thanking Ruby for saving his life, and what Ruby says in return, rightfully so, go to hell. Yeah, good on you, Ruby. Your heart's been broken, and yeah, you don't deserve to, like, he doesn't deserve any thankness, or, you know what I'm saying, just, yeah, you don't deserve any remorse, you know, good riddance to you, buddy. And golly, Conrad's still thinking that it's effects and such, but then the Shriek wakes up unconsciously and just, yeah, bites on Conrad. And after that, well, you know, it seems like as of now, you know, it's ended, you know, the rival between the unit and such, you know, the protesters, yeah, it seems to have ended, thankfully. And the Shriek has been locked up again. Conrad, he's now in jail, though, and, you know, Jordan Lang and the others, they're okay and they've survived, and we get a few funny lines here and there, like, most notably, Shirley, because making a comment on Ruby having two mothers, yeah, well, an adoptive mother and her actual mother, so yeah. And, you know, Kate checking on Ruby if she's okay, but, you know, Ruby makes it clear that, you know, she won't be okay, you know, because after all that happened, and she was liking Conrad, but he wasn't who she thought he was. Yeah, it's unfortunate. And, yeah, because even, like, Kate, you know, admitting, of course, that, you know, what she did was out of hand, but again, who could blame her on some things? I get it, but still, yeah. And then, when we see Conrad in his cell, well, he gets a surprise greeting by the Doctor himself. Yeah, this is where we see the Doctor again, and the Doctor confronting Conrad, just letting him have it with what he's done and so on. Good dialogue and just great performance from Ncuti Gatwa as the 15th incarnation. Yeah. And Conrad just being heartless and cold-blooded, just, you know what I'm saying? This what he says in return to the Doctor, just, yeah. And the Doctor predicting Conrad's future, that he will live the rest of his life in jail, and, you know, he will die, and he will be forgotten, and so on. Yeah. He had it coming to him. You know, Conrad, you know, he seemed like a nice guy and a kid, and it's like, we understand what you went through, but man, with what you did, yeah, just sucks to be you. But after that, and when, yeah, Conrad is back in his cell, he gets a unexpected greeting/visit from someone whom apparently, because is a guard at the jail. Well, it turns out to be Mrs. Flood, freeing Conrad and what she's about to offer to him and so on. Just, yeah. And yeah, Mrs. Flood, Anita Dobson, and just, yeah, just whom is Mrs. Flood? Because, you know, ever since we first saw her, you know, in the first Doctor Who Christmas special with Ncuti Gatwa, you know, when what this character's like, doing some fourth wall breaking, and from there on, just, yeah. I mean, you know, it's obvious we're going to find out at some point, and, well, by this season, yeah, because whoever this Mrs. Flood is, just, yeah, and especially by this point where she frees Conrad, man, because where is this going? Just, yeah. Yeah, and, oh, and Jonathan Ross, he made a... I think obviously I noticed him, but I didn't remember him in this episode as of now. Yeah, Jonathan Ross, through archive footage, he makes an appearance as himself. Yeah, uncredited. Yeah, but anyway, so, yeah, episode 4, Lucky Day, it was a pretty interesting and good episode, where we have another episode that does not center on the Doctor. It centers on one of the Doctor's companions, which being Ruby once again, and just like how it was in Season 1, it was pretty well done. And, you know, the fact, because we also have the unit as another focus, and we get more of Kate, you know? And man, the twist that happens in this episode with Conrad, he's not who we all thought he was, especially Ruby, protests against the unit and so on, but in the end, yeah, all of that managed to be patched up, and Conrad got what he deserved, yeah. Man, that was quite something, yeah. At least in my opinion, yeah. Just overall, episode 4, Lucky Day, was a pretty interesting one. Okay, with episode 4 out of the way now we come to episode 5, and man, as I said, these 3 episodes that I'm reviewing, episodes 4, 5, and 6, they were interesting ones, and yeah, because the next episode in Season 2 was another interesting one, and man, because with what goes on in this one. So, episode 5, The Story and the Engine. Description / the story. In Lagos, if I'm pronouncing that right, yeah. A mysterious figure called the Barber rules. The Doctor finds stories hold real power as he confronts the spider-weaving of vengeful web. Yeah, and Lagos, I might be mispronouncing it, but it's, you know, it's in Africa, so, yeah. So, you know, we basically have an episode of Doctor Who where, you know, one part of Africa is the main center and focus, but what the Doctor and Belinda find themselves into, and with this barber, yeah, very interesting. So the way this episode starts off, pretty interesting, as any Doctor Who episode would, because we have no idea what's going on at first, but as the episode proceeds, yeah, so you know the point, you get the point. Well, because we see these group of African Americans at this barber shop, and one of them is sharing a story that has to do with the doctor himself, because he encountered this doctor, and that being Omo Esosa, if I'm getting the last name right, being played by Sul Rimi. Yeah. So he's sharing this story about when he encountered the doctor, because the doctor came in and took out these fires because, yeah, this situation that Omo was in when he was young, and there were flames and such, and when the doctor stepped in, so, yeah. And this side of a wall where we see these, like, this story that Omo is sharing come to life, like, what's going on with this barbershop? This is not any ordinary barbershop. And it's really cool because then when the intro plays, then we see it on the wall, and then when the camera gets closer, yeah, that's when, that's awesome. And yeah, still, the doctor is still trying to help Belinda get her home and charging up, his very own GPS, and, well, where they end up at is in 2019 in Africa, because, yeah, Lagos, and, well, the doctor happening to know this barber shop, and he's been there before, even though, say, because according to the doctor, he does get his hair cut in the TARDIS still. He's been to this barber shop, he likes this barber shop, and yeah, I mean, of course, he's gotten some of his haircuts there, and he's befriended the main barber at that barber shop, which just so happens to be Umo. But the fact we saw Umo getting his haircut, and there's another barber, wonder what that's I wonder what that's about. Well, as this episode proceeds, we find out further. Yeah, so the doctor, because with what he says to Belinda about, the barber shop that's in Africa, in this one part of Africa, and the doctor, having charged up more of his very own GPS. I mean, I know the name of it, but, hard to pronounce, and I'm just sticking with GPS, okay? Because that's basically what it is, so... But yeah, after doing that, then the doctor, going to pay a visit to the barber shop, but little does the doctor realize what he's found himself into when he makes his way inside the barber shop, because once he steps inside, that's when he's apparently stuck. And these other group of characters that we get, whom have been in this barber shop for quite a while. We have Rajid, and I know I'm probably going to butcher their names, but still, I'll try my best. The best way I can say the names. We have Rajid Abuakara, being played by Stefan Edgbola. We have Tundi Adibio, being played by Jordan Adine. And we have Oma Okali, being played by Michael Balagon. I said that right? Yeah. Because we do see at one point that they are these 3-4 people, and yeah, even Umo's included too, technically, where they've gone missing. There's a poster that we see outside of the barber shop and near the barber shop where they've gone missing, and even when Belinda most notably notices this, and yeah, because what the doctor has walked himself into, and when meeting, say, the barber, things getting intense. And the fact that, and to speed things up some, because, yeah, these three, including Omo, they are being held hostage, and, they have to keep, getting their haircuts and tell these stories, because with them telling stories, and we see this projected on a wall, well, something's happening where, yeah, outside the barber shop, technically, they're still on Earth in Africa, but they're not. They're not just still present on Africa. They're in this nexus, as it's referred to, which is, yeah, this barber is responsible for this, with this nexus. And as I also read in the description, as it was said in the description / the story, this mechanical spider, just, yeah, because, needs the energy and such from these stories and so on. Just, man, with what the Doctor has found himself in. And when Belinda then later joins up with the Doctor with this, like, yeah, it's crazy. And this all linked with the barber, just, man. And someone else that steps in the barber shop that is in connections with the barber, and that being Abina. Yeah, I think I said that right. Being played by Michelle Asante. I think I said that right. And something about Abina that the Doctor recognizes. He recognizes her. But how? How does he recognize her? Well, as we find out further, because he's puzzled because he knows her, but he can't remember, how he knows her. And by the way, some of the other cast members of this episode, we have say a paramedic being played by Simon Bailey. We have consultant played by Adrian Pang. We have a patient played by Tessa Bell Briggs. Market seller played by Inua Alams, and there's a security guard played by Funami James. And also this little girl that I believe, it is her that, because the little girl that Belinda encountered and was a very mysterious little black girl, and then Belinda saw her at one point near the barber shop, and then she disappeared, But I believe, it is her, Poppy, played by Sienna Robin Mavnaga Phipps. Okay. Again, you know me sometimes pronouncing these sort of words. I'm not the only one. I'm sure you guys have been there too. But all right, back to where I was with this episode because and a few times where Belinda's still in the TARDIS, and every time the door to the barber shop has closes, this alert happens in the TARDIS, its very own red alert, and it's very loud, and because Belinda covering her ears and trying to ask the TARDIS for some information and a report on what's going on. But eventually, Belinda takes it upon herself to finally go and find the Doctor, and her knowing, of course, that the Doctor would be at the barber shop, and her getting tangled with the market sellers, and just poor Belinda. But thankfully she got out of there, and when she does eventually meet up with the Doctor, and now she's in the same situation as the Doctor and the others, another prisoner. And to go ahead and bring up the barber character, because whom is technically, he starts off being the antagonist of this episode. The barber being played by Arion Bakar. I'm saying that right? The barber is not just your typical barber, because with his connections with what everybody has found themselves in, including the Doctor and Belinda, and where they're at, not just at Africa, but in this nexus. And because the barber is actually named Kunabo, if I'm saying it right, and he's basically, and I have a description on this character, he's he's an immortal storyteller and inventor after spending centuries serving the storytelling gods, and he at first says that he's all of those gods, but the Doctor and Belinda and one of the other characters, they laugh and find this hilarious with what the barber has said. Because, the Doctor, especially knowing that he's not all of those gods, because he knew all those gods, each of them, and interacted with them. And I love this because, never fails to bring us good jokes and references, in Doctor Who. Because one of the gods that the Doctor interacted with, apparently because the Doctor and one of the gods watched all of the MCU movies up to Endgame. Now, that was pretty funny, I mean, especially since, the fact that the episode itself taking place in 2019, anyways. So the Doctor knowing, of course, that the barber is not all of those gods, but, even though he's not, and when the Doctor confronting the barber, who he is really, and what we find out, the truth about the barber, But again, as I was reading the description of the barber, because, again, was an immortal storyteller and inventor, and again, having spent centuries serving the storytelling gods, he was at one point abandoned by them and came to seek revenge in a scheme where he took over Omo's palace. Yeah, his barber shop. Because he was once an immortal human, and although he became immortal, in the course of serving the storytelling guards, he had followed the gods across the world, and he spread their stories to strengthen their bond with humanity and ensure their existence. And he cleaned up legends of the gods and printed them in books so that the stories could be passed on forever. Yeah. Because he also took strands of the storytelling god's blood and essence, and he basically built a web-like model with representing the convictivity, if I'm even saying it right, of ideas. The storytelling gods expanded this model into the Nexus, hence the Nexus. And because the barber had worked for centuries collecting the stories, and thus, that explains with his prisoners, and by forcing them to keep on having haircuts and telling stories and so on. It's crazy. It's really crazy, but also creative. Doctor Who never fails to always have some creative stuff when it comes to certain antagonists like these, who are very powerful, and in the end, the Doctor managing to take them down in his way. Always finding a way to take down whom the Doctor and any companion of his come face to face with. So this character is very interesting, and with What's Some Face, who plays the barber, does a spot-on job, and because with what the Doctor does next, and in order to, in some ways defeat him, but at the same time, there would be a happy ending for the barber, actually. And also, with the other character that's in link with the barber, Abina, well, the Doctor then realizes and remembers how he knows her, because he once encountered her. In fact, Abina was hoping that maybe the Doctor would take her with him and such because of the situation that she was in, but he didn't. Turns out, and I did find out that we were apparently to get an appearance of someone in Season 2, but I didn't fully know where, but as of now, it was still a nice surprise. Apparently, the Doctor, whom encountered Abina long ago, turned out to be the fugitive Doctor. And a very quick cameo appearance of Joe Martin reprising that incarnation of the Doctor, being labeled as the fugitive Doctor. So that's that incarnation of the Doctor whom, encountered Abina and so on. And the Doctor apologizing to Abina for having not taken her with him and so on. Him/her, because, when Abina first encountered the Doctor, the Doctor was the fugitive Doctor, and the fugitive Doctor was a woman, so, black woman. But that was really cool. We do get an appearance of the fugitive Doctor, and, it's really cool. Anyways, so, further on in this episode, and, because figuring out all the puzzles, and when, the Doctor actually gets some help from Abina, because, the Doctor making it clear to Abina that the barber has lied to her all this time, and with whatever the barber told Abina, just, it's a flat-out lie. And, well, because it gets more intense, and, the situation that they find themselves in, and with, having to provide more storytelling and such, but then, comes to say Abina, telling a story herself, and by cutting the Doctor's hair. And, then what happens next is, after sharing a story that she says, and something about, about how, this barber cuts hair and such, and the way we get the Doctor's hair cut by Abina, really interesting, but something about it that that basically helps out the Doctor and Belinda, because after that, the Doctor and Belinda make their escape going through this maze, and it turns out that Abina cut the Doctor's hair to basically make the shape of the maze, and the Doctor, like, trying to figure out which way to go. Oh, that was pretty cool. That was clever. Yeah, eventually, because when they make their way further in this, like, maze, well, eventually they find the main source, the heart of the Barber, and, well, trying to do something to take down the Barber, like, not kill him, but still. But also having the Doctor linked to himself, to the heart of the Barber, and so on, and this having to do with the stories and such. And, well, basically, the Doctor sharing his entire storyline, the never-ending story of the Doctor, and where we see on these TV monitors all of the incarnations of the Doctors, and yeah, even those that are in the main room of the barbershop, they can see this on the wall, you know, that projects the stories. Yeah, the never-ending story of the Doctor. What happens right there is really cool and awesome. Just, yeah. And, you know, the Doctor trying to get the Barber to redeem himself, and he can do good, and so on. Just, yeah. And in the end, yeah, that's what happens, because by destroying the spider, mechanical spider, and the whole nexus, the spider web and such, yeah, and everyone evacuating the barber shop, and, yeah, the Doctor and the Barber are the last two to get out of there, yeah, all of that madness comes to an end, and now those that were held hostage in the barber shop, well, they're free, and they can be reunited with their family, their partners, their kids, just, yeah, good to see. And as for Omo, well, he offers the Barber his barber shop because he is going to retire and he will pass it on to the Barber himself. And as for Abina, well, she'll do whatever she wants. Yeah. And not to mention that Abina, you know, she's basically like a god and such, you know, with what, you know, they explain. But yeah, and just overall, because with what all that happened in this episode, mind-blowing and just, yeah, but in the end, with what, you know, the Doctor solves, and he managed to redeem the Barber, become a better person, and, you know, to run just a normal barbershop business. It was really awesome. Yeah. Yeah, and just, you know, a happy ending right there, and, well, thus the Doctor and Belinda disembarking, and Belinda mentioning the Doctor about the little girl that she did see. Just, yeah. And by the way, because, well, Mrs. Flood having make another appearance, and with what she does, just, yeah. Man, I tell you, just, you know, overall, this episode 5, yeah, the story and the engine, was a very interesting one. With what it had to offer, this new antagonist, whom would then be redeemed, and just, yeah. Just everything about this episode was, again, interesting, satisfying, and not that bad. And yeah, it's a shame because, like, I can see, like, its rating on its IMDb page, like, not the best, but, I don't know. You've heard what I've had to say about the episode. I didn't think it was that bad at all. It was very interesting, creative, and yeah, because with its storyline, what the Doctor and Belinda find themselves dealing with, and when they solve it, not bad. Excellent. Yeah. But again, episode 5 of season 2 of Doctor Who, the story and the engine, I think, was another pretty good episode. Yeah. Okay, now with episode 5 out of the way, episode 6, and that being the third and last episode for my Part 2 review of Season 2 of Doctor Who. And that being the Interstellar Song Contest. And this is another one I can see on the IMDb page where, yeah, it is top rated. So, yeah. Okay. Description / the story. The Doctor's mission to return Belinda to Earth brings them to a space station song competition. What starts as entertainment turns into a fight for survival. Okay, so in this episode, the Doctor and Belinda find themselves at this massive space station that is holding the Interstellar Song Contest. And this space station, and good thing is I have it right here, I wrote down, just, have it up. It's called the Harmony Arena, where the 83rd, Interstellar Song Contest is taking place. And because... even right before the Doctor and Belinda show up, and still, the Doctor having to charge up his very own GPS in order to get Belinda back home. And, I don't know, because, it didn't really cross my mind, but man, because Belinda is almost kind of is at times being a bit too impatient with wanting to get back home. But this time, where they find themselves at, they quickly realize what this is like, and they are in no need to get back to Earth and such. And because, with the Interstellar Contest happening, because, first and foremost, because one of the main characters who plays himself, who had been in Carbon Freeze and such, and is now awakened for this occasion, Rylan Clark himself. I'm sure some of you probably know who he is. Personally, I don't know him that much. I'm pretty sure that I might have seen him some, but only any of you who come from the UK who follow me on Little Blue, you know who he is. So, so feel free to share what you think of Rylan Clark. But, obviously I get, because with what Rylan Clark does and with what goes on in this episode, just overall it's pretty funny, the fact that after all these years and, where the Doctor and Belinda are at, he's still alive and well, just, having been frozen in time and such, but, Anyways, because, with the Interstellar Song Contest, everyone is watching this, not only those being present, but everyone in the galaxy / the universe, this being broadcast, and these group of characters that we see, in this episode, they're some pretty interesting characters, and, even the Doctor and Belinda being well aware of what this is, Belinda having watched this on Earth, of course, with her parents, and, and where they found themselves at, it's just, it's pretty cool. And by the way, because, some of the characters that we get, because, there's Sabine, played by Julie Dray, there's the Runner, played by Imogen Kinsley Smith, and one of the main workers who is, in the control room, being Nina Maxwell, being played by Karina Stamel, and another one being Win Orakin, played by Iona Anderson, and and some of the other characters that are part of the this competition and such, we have Cora Saint Bavier being played by Miriam Teak Lee, and I believe, her manager, I want to say, because Len Gaza being played by Kimiji Defornian. Again, sometimes I know I'm butchering a good majority of their names. And we also have Liz Ardeen, played by Christina Rotanodo. But just, overall, because with this contest happening, this Interstellar Song Contest, and the Doctor and Belinda taking their time to enjoy this, and they're in their very own theater box, I guess you can say, their own booth, because we do find out that even the Doctor realizing that they took someone's theater box that they were supposed to be at, because they had already gotten their tickets, and we see whom they are that were supposed to be in that theater box / booth. These two guys who, because they're apparently husbands, because it didn't fully cross my mind, because I assume that they're in a relationship, and, we have our gay characters, but Gary and Mike Gabastone, Gary played by Charlie Condu, and Mike played by Cadif Kerwan, if I'm saying their last names right, but yeah, mostly Kadif. Yeah, already because there's some pretty interesting and funny characters, and again, the fact that the Doctor and Belinda accidentally took where they were supposed to be seated. Gary and Mike had already gotten their tickets, and they tried to report this to one of these robots. And I know the name of these robots, but I can't place it. I'll remember to put a text on what the name of those robots are. Well, when Gary's trying to speak to one of these robots, well, the robot then says, phase 1 complete and such. Just, yeah, what's this about phase 1? Well, these robots make their way to the control room, and apparently the robots have been reprogrammed to betray those that are running the contest. And yeah, even Wynn is in on this too. Not just her, but whom is responsible for this and about to unleash chaos, is the main antagonist named Kid. Literally, his name is Kid, being played by Freddie Fox. And it turns out that Kid and Wynn, they are boyfriend and girlfriend. Well, they're these alien species known as the Hellions, if I'm pronouncing that right, yeah. And they're these natives that come from this planet called Helia. And they were basically once known for its beautiful fields of hell poppies. And the Hellions are now viewed as evil and unemployed across the galaxy and so on. So, Kid, most notably, seeking revenge and getting control of the interstellar contest, and man, with what he does next, and when, say, things get suspicious, and when they start to take control of the control room and all, and with the broadcasting, well, and Ryan Clark being linked with what being told to do with the for the show, yeah, and even when one singer goes on to perform, which I believe, yeah, it's the runner. Yeah, and the Doctor getting suspicious and sensing what's going on, and yeah, then he quickly does something with his sonic screwdriver. What's he gonna do specifically? Well, we then see Kid and Wynn, because up above the theater room is this this shield, this bubble, that's keeping the atmosphere and oxygen and such, and well, they're basically about to pop that bubble. And even when the Kid mentions about a favorite song of his that has the word pop in it, and man, when that bubble pops, this everyone, their theater boxes, they're alerted by this, the alert system going off. Well, yeah, basically the audience, they're sent up to space, being sucked out, blown out into space. And man, just seeing them being blown out into space, and unfortunately, the Doctor and his TARDIS get blown out as well, with the exception of some that actually manage to survive it, because where their theater boxes are, the shields close. And Belinda, she survived this too, being blown out into space. It's crazy! And seeing that shot where we see all of the bodies being flown into space after being blown out, scary. Don't you think? Man, there's no denying that was intense, I was feeling it, when watching it, oh man. Oh, even, poor Ryan Clark, because, it's a bit funny because, not again, because, he's starting to freeze up again. And seeing the Doctor freeze up too, yeah. And the remaining survivors on the space station, Belinda being one of them, of course, but also Gary and Mike, because they didn't make their way into the theater room, well, because, they're okay, safe and sound, and even Cora and Lynn, they're okay too, and those that have been held hostage by Kid and Wynn, yeah, and Wynn, yeah, because Kid and Wynn reveal themselves who they really are and such, Wynn especially. Even Wynn's boss, Nina, did some good for Winn, but not enough. Just, yeah, the fact that Winn got to work at that position at the, in the space station, just, yeah, not enough. And what we learn more about this alien species, and because they're now labeled as evil alien beings and so on, and something that is mentioned at one point, that they provided honey products. Yeah, something to do with honey. And what Korra explained at one point, because Korra happening to know a good majority about that alien species. Yeah. Belinda, when, she does come face to face with Korra and Lin, they come together and try to figure out what to do next. And, it's mentioned to Belinda that, Earth apparently is gone. It's lost and such. And Belinda just being confused and upset and having no way to get back home without the Doctor and the TARDIS. Yeah. And speaking of the Doctor, well, seeing him out in space and, he's frozen up. Well, surprisingly and out of nowhere, and I knew this. I knew a little bit of this before I have now watched the episode, where the Doctor gets an unexpected vision. Like, it's a call to him. His granddaughter, Susan Foreman, after all these years, and when Doctor Who came back, starting with the 9th incarnation, after all that time, Susan has finally made a comeback. And of course, Susan, once again being played by good old Carol Ann Ford. Yep. Susan has made her triumphant return where, she calls out to her grandfather, the Doctor, to find her and so on, and just to wake up and such. And and that's what happens to the Doctor. He manages to regain consciousness and to not die in space. And Gary and Mike happen to see the Doctor out there, and that he awakens. And even the Doctor using a confetti cannon to send himself launching back into the space station and go for one of the airlocks, and where the Doctor does come face to face with Gary and Mike just so happens to be a nurse and, helping the Doctor wake up some more, clear and so on, and this is where the Doctor would come face to face with Gary and Mike and they would team up, so but that was really cool that, we finally see Susan make her triumphant return. And fun fact, she was at one point considered, especially from Peter Capaldi, to make a comeback. Hopefully to make a comeback at some point in Doctor Who, because during the time and era of the 12th Doctor, there was a reference / mentioning of Susan, with the 12th Doctor, and Capaldi was hoping that maybe, while he was still the Doctor, maybe at some point, Susan could come back, and if Stephen Moffat would have brought back Susan, but that sadly didn't come to be. But until now, thanks to, obviously, Russell and the others, doing Doctor Who. So, but just overall, good to see that, we finally get to see Susan, even though, for right now, the Doctor and Susan haven't reunited, still, her, calling out to the Doctor, that's still acceptable, And, not to mention because, in season 1, the Doctor making a mentioning to Ruby about, his granddaughter and so on, and where they were at, during the era of the Beatles, that episode, because somewhere is his first incarnation, and Susan. But anyways, so again, thanks to Mike especially for helping the Doctor to regain consciousness, and now we have the Doctor with Gary and Mike, and what Kid is going to do next, along and with Winn, with him? Well, sending a broadcast, broadcasting something all around the universe / the galaxy, where it's going to kill everyone that listens to this high pitch noise and probably give them nosebleeds or something. Just if killing all of those people, those aliens and such that were at that on that space station, having them being blown out to space wasn't enough, what Kid's gonna do next is crazy. And and to speed things up some, because then the doctor managing to get in contact with the kid, transmission. And, well, it just so happens that Belinda, Cora, and Lynn happen to see this as well. And this is kind of like a callback, don't you think, to, like, say, in the season 4 finale, with the 10th Doctor, where everybody was able to get in contact with the Doctor except Rose. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. Like, yeah, is it not obvious? Yeah. And yeah, because man, then what happens next is with the Doctor interacting with Kid, this is where the Doctor, and this rarely happens with the Doctor, because yeah, some moments with the Doctor where this wouldn't be his usual self, where he becomes cold-blooded and is telling Kid that he will see Kid be frozen in space and step on him, and it will be a joy to the Doctor. I mean, I get his point, and we do too, where, yeah, because after what Kid did, killing all those innocents, being blown out into space, and when the Doctor, he thought that Belinda was lost as well. Like, that's understandable, but man, that's not the Doctor that Belinda knows and we know, but still, just, man, that was quite something. And just, just like, holy cow, like, where the direction the Doctor's taking so far, just mind-blowing. But, I mean, the fact that he, because, not to mention, because with the Flash, the visions he's so far had of Susan, just, and thinking that Belinda's lost, just, yeah, it's understandable. And also, can't forget to mention this, of course, because and this is right before, like, when the Doctor got sinister and cold-blooded, where there was one moment where a holographic image of Graham Norton pops in. Yeah, because I heard and knew, and I'm sure the same goes for you, where Graham Norton was announced to make an appearance in Season 2 of Doctor Who, and that's this episode, because, yeah, Graham Norton, whom we see, and, yep, Graham Norton himself, like, appearing as himself, holographic image, and, well, because, and saying, in his hologram image, saying, I'm dead, poor me, and also, like, Graham Norton having some facts about Earth, as I recall. Yeah, I mean, especially when we see him again towards the end of the episode, and even the Doctor having a good feeling that, yeah, Belinda would love this, seeing Graham Norton and such, yeah. And by the way, because, yeah, coming back to Cora, because her knowing so much about this alien species, the Hellions, again, if I might be pronouncing that right, maybe off, but yeah. Well, yeah, she is one of them, and under her hair, the horns were cut off, I think, yeah, as she says, by force, and, well, we also learned that this corporation bought the home planet of these aliens, and by harvesting, like, say, these puppies, honey, just, yeah, and what they explain in this episode, it's pretty interesting, and, well, yeah, because of that, the Kid seeking revenge with what they did with his home planet and so on, and what he does on the space station, yeah, and again, like I said, where it's explained with this alien species that they are presumed and labeled as evil aliens and being misunderstood, just, yeah. And I think it's obvious that, and that especially goes for Cora, not all of them are bad, but those that are bad, well, Kid being the best example, so, yeah. Okay, so then what happens next is, well, with the Doctor trying to figure out what to do next, and again, with Gary and Mike having tag along with him, and even at one point where the Doctor manages to take down, like, these 2 robots that are approaching them, simple as that, with his screwdriver, like, exploding their heads and such, literally popping off, like, yeah, that escalated quickly to take down the 2 of those robots. And yeah, what the Doctor's planning to do next, and to try to stop and prevent with what the Kid's doing, and also with the use of holograms. And just so happens that Gary is the right guy for that, where he's like a technician or something. He's good with that kind of technology and such, and, Gary, I like you, just, yeah. So Gary helping out the Doctor with what he's going to do, and there's a countdown with with what the kid is going to do, the transmission and such, world, broadcast in the galaxy. But yeah, the Doctor managing to confront the kid, but it's not the Doctor himself, it's hologram versions of him. Yeah, managing to, stop the kid and take him down. And yeah, because we see one of the holograms of the Doctor electrocuting him, and when the Doctor himself steps his way into the control room, yeah, because he's wearing gloves by using the hologram images of him to electrocute and shock the kid. And man, this is where, because the Doctor being sinister and cold-hearted and just electrocuting him, because, it's understandable, because with him thinking that he has lost Belinda, because, having protect Belinda and so on, but just, but thankfully Belinda, along with Cora and Lynn, they managed to find the Doctor, and Belinda, seeing what the Doctor's doing, and, again, this is not the Doctor, and she's, telling the Doctor to stop this, and even when the Doctor sees another vision of Susan telling him to stop too, and eventually he does, not killing Kid and sparing him, and thus the Doctor and Belinda are reunited, and, well, the Kid is defeated. Those robots, they've been reprogrammed, and thus the Kid and Winn are taken in. Just, good to see. And, well, also, with all of those, beings that were blown into space, they somehow survived, thanks to the Doctor, because what we saw him do early, right before they were blown into space, he was using a sonic screwdriver, finding a way to keep them still alive and preserved and such. And and thanks to Gary and Mike, they bring in all of those that were blown into space to be, brought back alive and well, and because with the freezing technology and such, and with a montage of all of them being resurrected, and even using those theater boxes, that definitely helps further, because with how many of them were blown into space, And there's a funny moment where, Rylan Clark, when he's resurrected, because the Doctor and Belinda, just excited to see and interact with Ryland, especially Belinda. That's pretty funny. And then, the Interstellar Contest is back in business. The show continues, and, well, whom then sings another song is someone, that had entered in the contest, and that being Cora, And when Cora, explains that this song that she's about to sing, well, it was banned by the corporation, and revealing whom she is and where she comes from, and explaining that this song, basically, and best way I can put out is to show to everyone that they're not whom they are preserved to be, they're labeled as, and so on, and this song being about peace, humanity, and so on, and and Cora singing it in that alien language, and, it's a very lovely, beautiful song, even though it's sung in alien language, but still. And in the end, after singing that, nobody claps, but until, say, Gary, Mike, the Doctor, Belinda, and everybody else, they start to clap, and, it seems like probably things will get better for Cora and her alien kind, and that also goes for Kid and especially Winn. Because even Winn was happy to see Cora having done that. So and after all that, well, the Doctor and Belinda are about to disembark, and because the mentioning the Doctor mentioning to Belinda about the loss of all of his fellow Time Lords, and because with what had happened on that space station, how he puts at it to Belinda, it's understandable, and he doesn't mention it fully, but by briefly mentioning about the visions he's had of his granddaughter, And then we get another appearance of hologram Graham Norton, and Belinda's happy to see hologram Graham Norton. And, well, as I mentioned earlier, where Graham Norton, via hologram, giving some, information and such about Earth, well, because this is where the Doctor and Belinda find out that apparently with Earth no longer existing, well, because it was destroyed on the 24th of May, 2025, and, okay, well, that's eerie, especially because when the episodes of Season 2 were coming out, jeez Louise, and how it was destroyed, Earth, unknown, and yeah, the way hologram Graham Norton says that is just, it's supposed to be chilling and such. And, well, the Doctor having no idea what has caused this, and, well, no doubt that they're going to prevent this. But when the Doctor's very own GPS is finally charged up, well, thus finally making their way back to Earth, but something else happens in the TARDIS where, as of now, they've apparently made their destination, May 24th, 2025, and, well, it seems that they might be too late, because literally, an explosion happens, and it blows off the doors of the TARDIS, and yeah, that's where the episode ends off, but not quite, because we do get a mid-credits scene, and, well, basically, we see Gary and Mike still, in the process of, the last remaining civilians, on the space station being resurrected and such. One of them being Miss Flood, and I meant to bring up Miss Flood because we do see her at the very start of this episode being in the audience of the Interstellar contest, and, well, her noticing and watching the Doctor and Belinda, and, yeah, because with whatever she's doing, and because, yeah, her being aware of the Vindicator, yeah, the Doctor's very own GPS that he's using, just, yeah, like, we don't know what she's up to, but probably it's something not good, and, yeah, and even Mrs. Flood was having a good time. No rush for whatever she was going to do, just, yeah, to sit back and enjoy, the contest, even offering someone a grape. But when we see Mrs. Flood again, and yeah, she was blown into space and she's resurrected, well, this is where we discover that Mrs. Flood, and if anybody predicted this, I think I did too, kind of. Yeah, but point being is that, well, Mrs. Flood is a Time Lord, a time lady and such, basically, and how it's put. And she starts to regenerate by generating. Yeah, just like what happened with the 14th and 15th incarnation where they split in half and they bi-generated. Yeah, that happens to Mrs. Flood, and Gary and Mike are surprised by this, and yeah. We see the next incarnation of Mrs. Flood being played by Archie Panjabi, if I'm getting her last name right, and whom Mrs. Flood is. And this was a good surprise. After all these years, we get the return of another big enemy of the Doctor's, the Ronnie. Yeah, the Ronnie's back, baby. Yeah, and seeing as how the very last time we ever saw the Ronnie, and I don't know, I'm sure you hardcore Whovians would know about this, of course, where, yeah, the last time we ever saw the Ronnie was in one of the Doctor Who anniversary specials, Dimensions in Time. That was in 1993. That was the very last time we saw the Ronnie, and especially the Ronnie being played by the late Kate O'Mara. Yeah, but as of now, she's back. The Ronnie is back. The rogue Time Lord. Yeah, well, renegade, but yeah, still, a rogue Time Lord, yeah. An evil Time Lord, basically, right there next to, say, well, the Master. Yeah. So yeah, all this time, Mrs. Flood was the Ronnie. And this is, don't you think it's quite similar to, like, say, when we were introduced to Missy? She turned out to be the Master. Yeah, it's exactly like that. So yeah, the Master going by a different identity. So the same goes for the Ronnie. It's amazing, really good. So, yep, with the Ronnie making her return and the fact that she's now bi-generated, we now have 2 Ronnies. Oh boy. Well, yeah. And with whatever the Ronnie's plotting, and, well, this obviously has to do with her being the cause of Earth being destroyed on the 24th of May, 2025, yeah. And because with, her having kept an eye on the Doctor's Vindicator, aka his very own GPS, yeah, whatever she's going to do by the next 2 episodes, oh yeah, because we're getting up to the point in season 2, yeah, that the last 2 episodes, things are going to get intense and climactic, just, yeah. But yeah, just what a heck of a way to end off, the 6th and 3rd to last episode of season 2 of Doctor Who. Yeah. But just, yeah. Episode 6, the Interstellar Song Contest. It was a pretty good one. Yeah, another intenseful episode, and with what this episode's storyline had to offer, everything about it was interesting. And what happens at the very end, we finally know who Mrs. Flood is, and when she bi-generates, just, amazing. And getting the return of Susan Foreman, finally. Yeah, and that's the thing, because this episode having 2 triumphant returns of, Susan and the Ronnie, amazing and mind-blowing, and awesome at the same time. But yeah, just overall, episode 6 was another good episode, in my opinion, and I'm sure you guys would think so too. Yeah. But yeah, so, in closing, for my part 2 review of season 2 of Doctor Who, episodes 4, 5, and 6, they were some pretty good episodes. And yeah, one of them, unfortunately not being the best, but I thought it was pretty good because of what I had to say reviewing episode 5. Yeah. With what each of these episodes had to offer, and this is where, yeah, these episodes, they get intense, and, what happens in them just crazy, but awesome at the same time. Just what more do I have to say? Overall, episodes 4, 5, and 6 of season 2 of Doctor Who, they were some pretty good ones. And what about you guys? What did you think of the next 3 episodes of season 2? Episodes 4, 5, and 6, which ones were your favorites? And I'm sure, because you all were not expecting on what was to exactly happen in these episodes, with the twists, the surprise, and with what the Doctor and Belinda do, and how things turn out great in the end, and yeah, and especially in episode 6, where we get some surprising returning characters, and just, yeah. Overall, what do you think of episodes 4, 5, and 6 of season 2 of Doctor Who themselves, with what I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review, my part 2 review, that is, of Season 2 of Doctor Who, Episode 4, Lucky Day, Episode 5, The Story and the Engine, and Episode 6, The Interstellar Song Contest. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. And, well, like I said, only 2 more episodes left for Season 2 of Doctor Who. So, yep, stay tuned for my 3rd and final part review of Season 2 of Doctor Who. Yeah. Take care, and peace out. And I'll see